Yay. Hi, Becky.
Hi there.
Okay. I can't actually remember again how you titled, how you guys, I can't even remember how we titled
This
my
this
insight that I
is
had.
a fresh look at life transitions,
Oh, okay.
aka
That's
the
right.
space in between.
Okay. So, yeah, this stemmed from a conversation that we were having about what we wanted to explore this month on a fresh look. So, I hear things sometimes when other people speak, and it speaks to some truth inside. That's kind of how things go. And I know what it feels like when something is hit a chord inside me. And I had been sitting in something that Aaron Turner had said. I was listening, it was a call that he was doing with his wife, Leela, and they were just sharing kind of where they were, things that they had seen, their own personal insights, things that they wanted to kind of share with their community. And I heard Aaron say, I'm in between understandings. And I was like, oh, yeah. Because I knew that I'm in between understanding. But the way that he said it, and this is what struck such a chord with me, was that he was so peaceful about it. He knew the next one was on its way. And he was very calmly in that space between them. And my in between understandings is filled with a lot of personal thinking that sounds a lot like, oh, you're totally lost. You're lost. You don't know. You don't know. You don't know. It's like spins, right? You don't know. You don't know. You don't know. It's a mystery. You don't know what you're doing. You haven't seen anything yet on this. And so mine got busier and almost panicky. Like I could hear the voice being very panicky about being in between. And when I, my personal experience of being in between understandings is when I've seen enough that my old beliefs don't fit anymore and I can't go back. And it feels uncomfortable, but I know that I've seen something. I just don't really know quite what that is yet. But I know I can't go back. And I know whatever it was that I was thinking at the time, feeling or believing, it no longer applies to me and what I know to be true. And when I heard Aaron say that, and I knew that he felt a lot of peace around it, you could tell, like he just knew the understanding was going to settle in at some point. But he had found such a beautiful space in between that he embodied the possibility of being peaceful in between understanding. And so that's what I brought to the group, and we all kind of I don't know, kind of settled into that and how we can embody possibility for others as well. And I'll add something um, that I was sitting in a couple days ago. I was sitting outside. I'm traveling right now with family, and I'm up in the mountains, up in Asheville, North Carolina. If you guys know where that is, and leaves are starting to change, and it's spectacular, right? So, but I'm sitting outside and I'm watching these leaves fall off these gorgeous trees up in the mountains, and I felt kind of, this is going to sound really kind of woo woo, I'm sure, but I felt very struck by how easily they let go every season. They let go of all their leaves every season. And they don't immediately grow leaves back. Like they're in between, just like what we're talking about. They're in a season in between. But nature has such a graceful way of letting go of what no longer serves or what's moving on to the next stage. And for trees, the next season. And I just felt very, I just appreciated how easeful it looks as a reminder that we can actually let things go with ease when they don't fit us anymore. And life has this way of changing us, I think sometimes when we don't realize it. We think it's all us, right? Like we've seen something or heard something or been through something, and we think that's our job, what we're doing. But it feels more true to me right now that life is taking me from one season to the next, one understanding to the next, because I know it's not me. I can't do that. So that's kind of, I don't know, some of the things that I've seen recently about moving from one season to the next or one transition, one understanding. So we thought it might be a cool topic for today to kind of explore together. And what's so cool is that between the six of us, transition or season or whatever word, it could be completely a different perspective of the word transition than what it looked like to me when I realized, oh, peace is possible in between. And I can let it go with ease, knowing that life will take me to the next understanding when I need it.
Pete, when you first brought this as a topic, I did not have the same understanding about it that I do right now. I heard the words you were saying, and as a human, I can relate, but I feel myself right in the middle of it right now and the turmoil of it. And I'm like, oh, that's what Kate was talking about. And this, because I've heard myself saying things very similar to what you just said. The old way doesn't work. And I don't know what the new way is. What the hell is going on? And I've watched this, I've heard you say too, Kate, not today, but I've heard you say before. I've watched as the things that I used to turn to for security are just one by one not available. Can't do it. Doesn't work. Now what? And for me, this is in particular about, well, it's bigger than that. I'm seeing it with money right now, but it came from, I don't want to say it, just seeing how much I was creating from somebody else's idea of what my life is supposed to look like. That wasn't mine. And that everything, so much, I've been reaching for things and looking for things that I didn't know I was doing this, but I was reaching for something to feel okay, to finally find a missing piece of something. And I went, oh my God, I didn't know I was doing it because I do it so much less. Than I did 3 years ago, 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, right? Like, I was like, oh my God, I'm still doing it. And seeing that is like the thing, I can't not see it now. I can't unsee that. And I can't go back to where I was. And the things I was doing to get myself, I just saw how much I was using what I'd made up to get myself to do things still, to motivate me. And it's not there in a way that looks anything like plausible now. Like, nope. And so now what? But there's something really cool that happened to me just yesterday as I realized that all of the things I used to go to, my coping stuff, my ways I made it okay, they're not there. And instead of freaking out, I'm letting go. Okay, okay. It's like giving up in a really nice way. I'm giving up the fight to try to make something be a way that it isn't. Okay, this is right now. This is. And what I noticed is that I'm seeing something at a way deeper level than I've seen before. Probably still the tip of the iceberg, but deeper for me. That there really is no value in me freaking out, panicking, trying to figure out. Like, actually, there isn't value in it. It does not help me and it feels bad. And that the thing for me to do is to be right here, doing whatever I know to do in this moment. And that's it. That's it. And as I was settling into that, I started to notice I've never been a tree that I know of. But I bet a tree would feel like this too. Like, even though these things are falling away, there's so much life in the tree. There's so much happening. Even as it starts to look like it's dying, it's not. And that's what I started to notice. I was like, oh, I'm not stagnant or stuck or even in between. Life is happening. I could feel it and I can see it and I know things to do. I'm just not doing them the way that I was. And little mind was freaking out. So it has felt really uncomfortable and really confusing and really disorienting and also amazing because I'm not making it up the way I was before. And I was astounded at how realizing that this isn't the life I want. If there was a blank slate here, my life is a blank slate, what would I put on it? And I had some answers for that. And I don't know what it looks like exactly and what it means, but I have the direction. Like I know the direction because it's always been here. I'm just not redirecting myself to something that looks more practical. I'm not putting my foot on the hose of life so much anymore. All I have to do is just take it off, let it go. And here it comes. Here it is. So thank you, Kate, for bringing this because I didn't realize how apropos this would be for me personally.
When I think about transitions, there always is an element of time in it. We can reflect on the past. We can imagine a future. We can have a idea or picture of where we are now. And to me, that's the sort of context of being in a transition. And if you're not thinking about the past and the future, then you just have the present, you know. And but what Kate was saying about it was so interesting because we talked about this before, is when you were listening to Aaron, and it seems to me like what I'm hearing in your speaking is some feeling of peacefulness too. And so regardless of whether it's past, future, whatever, it seems like there's always a possibility that it could be an anxious experience or it could be a peaceful experience and anything in between. And just to know that if it feels bad and you want to get out of it, which is, I think, pretty normal, um, that peace is still available too. Before I got into the principles, when I was in grad school, we actually had a whole section on transitions. And there was this guy who wrote his last name was Bridges, and the title was Transitions. And the thing that he pointed out that he said a lot of people struggle with is not realizing that what you would call an in-between period is really part of the process. like Kate was talking about the leaves and the seasons and everything. So the in between part is part of the process, and yet so many of us are not comfortable in that space. So we want to get out of it, and it's the wanting to get out of it which feels bad. One of the things that feels bad, wanting to get out of it. And so just seeing it as part of the process. And he also wrote about how it's the most creative place you can be. Like it might feel dark, but there are all these hidden gems in so, in the so-called dark. And that really helped me. And I think it just became a part of my worldview is knowing that when I do feel in between, and I think there's for all of us, and you guys can check this out for yourselves, there's almost always like one area of your life, of all the different areas of our life, where we probably feel a little in between on. And you can check that out for yourself. All the major things in our lives, whether it be like finance or family and other people, or our health, or our work, or what's going on in the world. There's almost always, or some inner thing, understanding where we are in our understanding. There's almost always something in transition. And the other thing I remember reading once around the same time, about 10 or so years ago, there was a story about someone who went to meet, I think it was like a Zen monk or someone to talk. And this person was talking about how they're in this transition and they're having a hard time. And the monk just said, we're always in transition, meaning actually like moment to moment is always a transition of some sort. And again, that helped me in the sense of how real and normal transition is. Before I came here, I was at the coffee shop, and then it was time to come here. And in a way, you could say, well, I was in transition as I was walking whatever the 1,000 feet from the coffee shop to here. And those transitions, if you look at it that way, are happening all the time. So just to go back to what I loved about what Kate brought, and what Stephanie shared too, is it's kind of up for grabs how we experience it. And I think if we know that the transition is actually a gift, and it's so normal to imagine the future and imagine, for me, now I'm talking about me, imagine like my whole world crashing down. It's so easy for me to go there in different areas of the whole thing. And at the same time, when I know that's what's happening, this comes back to the principles. It's so powerful. It does come back to like it's thought about the future that feels bad, that I want to get out of, and just recognizing what's going on, sort of coming back to myself, or just coming back to the moment, waking up, that there's a possibility for peace, for joy, for fun, for creativity. The space of what they often call in between is the space of creativity. When I paint or write, or other people have this experience too, you go into it not knowing what you're going to do or what's going to happen. And if you can learn to like that feeling, actually. Whereas a lot of times you'll hear people say, there's these terms in art and creativity, like afraid of the blank page or afraid of the blank canvas. There's nothing to be afraid of in there in my world. It's just, I mean, I understand it. Maybe I used to feel that way, but there's nothing scary about the blank page and the not knowing. And one of the reasons, I'll just end with this, one of the reasons I think it feels so easy for me in art is also because I don't believe there's anything at stake in what I create. There's nothing at stake. And if I don't like what I paint, I've got, you only see a small portion of the paintings that are all around me. This place is filled. Um, I have never gotten to a painting where I've had to throw away the canvas or the paper because I have so many layers on it. Now I may get there one day. You just keep going, you keep going. So, so I guess transitions can be seen as a gift. The anxiety that seems to be pretty normal in that period, that can be a different experience if you kind of understand what's going on. And you can go from anxious to peacefulness in 2 seconds. And it does happen just naturally. And it's just kind of like one of those things, like nice to know. I see you nodding, Dennis. Do you have anything? Do you relate to any of this? Or where are you at?
Oh, do I have anything? Come on. What is that? What is that question? And you get me started, and how do you stop them? Um, Something I was playing around with as I was listening to Steph and Kate talk about their experiences is I heard the word transition, but the experience that kept coming up for me was not transition, though I do understand that and I experience it, but more agitation. Now, before I go on, let me ask a question. How many, when you heard the word agitation, thought something negative?
A little bit.
And how many saw it as, if I take a plate and I put a layer of water in it and I drop a penny in the middle and I go, and I agitate that plate, the flow that happens not going like so, but going in all directions. And if you had asked 20-year-old me what transition looked like versus 60-year-old me what transition looks like, today I see transition more in that agitation going everywhere. And I don't have to reach and I don't have to encumber myself by trying to stop that agitation. I can just let it happen. And I can be aware of it and I can let it pass through me. I can do nothing with it. I can, oh, that one. So that's a curious one over there. Let's play with that one. Let's pull that one in and just maybe be a little bit more sensitive to that one, which, by the way, we're doing that all our lives anyway. We're being sensitive to those things, to our experiences around us. And so the term agitation became a very curious thing because that came out of nowhere. And what I like about, for me, the agitation of a 60-year-old is how much more free I am now to explore and have nothing on any of that. And I don't know, and I'm my only 60-year-old, by the way, so I don't know if that works for every other 60-year-old. You know, and I'm gonna just imagine that there's 30-year-olds that experience it the same way because we're all just different and divine in our own way. The I I like now my transitions. I like them now because when I was younger, I had so much judgment on it. And so much thinking about it. And the one transition that always rode with me, that always kind through my life was people see you as weird. And you are weird. And that's bad. You know. And now people experiencing me as weird has no place. It doesn't sit anywhere for me anymore. Matter of fact, sometimes it's just that nice little thing to go, good, good, and I I was thinking about an experience I had in SeaTac in Seattle when I was coming home this weekend, flying from Seattle to Minneapolis, my connecting flight. And I got there very early. I had a very early flight that I had to get. It was leaving at 6 a.m. And of course, the recommendation was get there at 4. And I decided to just get there a little bit earlier. So I took an Uber. I mean, I stayed at a hotel right across the road. And so I took an Uber over there, and I was walking through the airport, just enjoying the experience of being in an airport. Raise your hand when you last time you had that experience of just loving being in an airport, you know? And the we couldn't discern at 4 o'clock in the morning when the what gate we were supposed to be leaving out of. So on our technology, our app, it said we were supposed to be over at A12, but if you looked at the board in the airport, it said we were supposed to be over at B7. And my initial thought was, I have 2 hours. It'll get sorted out. It'll get sorted out. And I had a young lady come up, and when I was looking at the board, and she was looked down at her phone, looked up at the board, looked down at the board, and I said, "You're going to Minneapolis, aren't you?" And she, "Yeah." I could tell by the look on your face. And I decided to try a little experiment, which is where this transition is going. I decided to try a little experiment. I said, what if I don't try to solve this? What if I say to myself, there are people much more knowledgeable than I am about the methodology of flying people in and out of the airport, and I just let them do what they do? And isn't it amazing that even if there was just a little bit of going on in me, it just went, Tom's word yesterday, buoyancy. And how that buoyancy came back. And transition wise, I felt that. And so now I have this connection to what Tom was saying, what I felt, and I can come back to that connection because it's something I was able to be curious about and to be able to play with. I was all over the place on that one. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. I especially loved the different perspective on agitation. Like, oh, that's just natural. That's when things get stirred up a little bit. That happens all the time.
All the time.
It's true. Very beautiful. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
A couple of weeks ago, I was at an event, and it was an art event, and the speaker was talking about their process, and it was someone who I'd known from past meetings and things. And at one point, they were talking about having like a sketchbook practice for art, and they said, "How many people have a sketchbook?" And a bunch of us raised our hands. And then next question was, how many are they like really messy? And I raised my hand, a bunch of people raised my hand. And then they said, "How many of them are perfect?" And I was like, and the speaker looked at me and said, "Tom, of course, because it is. It's exactly right. It's messy and it's perfect." And I think that's a great metaphor for transitions too. They're messy sometimes and they're perfect.
It was really nice to share today, as I did earlier with a couple people, what was going on, the details of my mess, right? And to have somebody look at me and say, with complete earnestness, wow, that sounds like an amazing experience. How amazing for you. It's so full of possibilities. And I was like, yeah, you're right. It is. What else is coming up around transitions or anything else that sparked your?
I need to just quickly jump in and then I'll leave it be somebody else's. Tom said perfect, messy, and perfect. And that is my puppies. And before that, that was my babies. Messy and perfect. And I loved it.
Mhm.
Well, I remember when we came up with the title of Land Life Transitions, one of the things that occurred to me is how sometimes that word transition is used as to describe death. And I was talking with a client this morning, and she said something that I wasn't expecting her to say. She says, "Well, maybe all we have to do is just come to peace with the fact we're going to die." It's like, yes, because that's for many people one of the biggest and maybe scariest transition that's coming up. And even in that one, or thinking about that one, there is still the possibility of peace. And I've thought about being on my deathbed, and I want it to be a peaceful experience. I don't want to be like, oh my God, all scared. And I might be. I don't know how I'm going to be. But just to be like, wow, what's going to happen now? Because I might not even be conscious, but from here, like, meaning I'm thinking, I'm hoping that I'm quite some distance from that moment, just being more at peace around it. And I've certainly become a lot more peaceful around it. And it's like life is so full of transitions. I think someone said there's always one or more areas of our life that is going through transition. And those were the moments where I think we can naturally have more thinking, agitation, and fear because of the unknown. And yet there's also the possibility of peace. I remember, one form of transition is moving. And I remember I had a move coming up, and the morning of the move, I had this very, very clear intention that I wanted the day to be, I don't remember the exact words, but I'll go with easeful and peaceful. And the first thing I did is went over to my new house, and there was a little bit of a flood in the basement. That's how it started off. And then I had to be in two places, different places at the same time. And there was just things happening where there was a lot of activity. And I remember when I sat down at the end of the day, when I could finally sit down and have some quiet, even though there'd been a lot of activity, that I had been in a peaceful place for much of the day. So maybe the intention helped. But more importantly, and the reason I'm mentioning it is it just showed me the possibility that being in a peaceful place is available, even when there's unknowns, even when there's activity, peace is available. And we're really good we've been conditioned to add lots of thinking onto a situation, which takes us away from our peace. And when we're less peaceful, we're also, I think, typically less resourceful. So there's a real value in knowing that peace is available, being open to it. I mean, I remember in my 20s, I was, I had this craving for peace of mind. And I also had a very active mind. And I didn't see the inherent conflict in that back then. Um, but even then, I just had a sense of peace is something that I want more of. Sid Banks, you say, goes further, and I went further and said something like, it's what everybody's looking for. Is that true? I don't know, but it kind of makes sense to me. There's something about it. And I've certainly experienced that for myself, and peace is available, even in the midst of transition. So that was the thing that kind of wanted to occurred to me to share. I'm curious if Becky or Noah has something they wanted to say, or Dan had something they wanted to say on this this topic of life transitions. And see Dan's working up to it, I think.
Uh, yeah, I was on a call earlier with I mean, I think it's kind of all the time, you know, happening for all of us. You know, we're always in transition, it seems like. And yeah, I was on a call with Hannah Studley, and she has a coaching group on in the hour before this one, and yeah, it's just amazing to hear people's stories. Um, and what they've been through. And um, so, what I've really noticed, I'll just say what was just coming to me now. Um, I saw Bernie on the Pransky um, course, George and Linda, and I love Linda Pransky, and I love George, and it's such a George going through his stroke and talking about that. And all of us go through things, as Sid said, the contact sport thing. And so it's I guess a wonderful understanding to know that whatever happens, I'll be okay. And whatever the transition is, I don't have to figure it out. In fact, I can't figure it out ahead of time. It's got to be a in the moment thing, and that even like having like George's stroke and not being able to talk and having to kind of recover from all that. I've had some physical things that have happened to me, but it doesn't have to, like, there's still this profound appreciation of life. Whatever happens, there's still this miracle of life going on, consciousness and awareness. And I think I'm just kind of wandering around. I don't know that I really have a point to what I'm saying, but I'm just grateful to be part of this conversation. And I could feel it when I joined the Zoom call. I could feel this kind of settling down. And I really felt it strongly, in the calls over the 4 days with George and Linda and Wynn. And And I think I'm still in that, like when you go to on a vacation to Hawaii or something, you come back and it's like, well, I'm just going to stay in this aloha spirit for the rest of my life, And, I'm still in that, I guess the experience of that, and it feels like it's the natural state, it's who I am, and so it's not something I have to work at. Um, and the other thing that came to me this morning was, I don't know why I was thinking about this. I'm teaching a class at the local university. It's an adult education class, and it's called Ditch the Drama, Falling in Love with Being Yourself. And and this came to me just sort of out of nowhere this morning. It's like there's nothing sweeter than the experience of just being exactly who I am moment by moment. I mean, it's just such a sweet experience. I don't know if that makes any sense, but for me, who's always spent my entire life mostly, trying to get somewhere or be something or fix myself or change things. It's so sweet to just settle into that peace and not have to um, have that pressure to be something or do something. No, I don't know if that has anything to do with transitions, but I haven't made many of your calls, but I really appreciate the ones that I have, and I've listened to the recordings on some of them. So thanks for having these. Got to get the word out so more people know about this.
Mm.
A great resource.
Dan, what you just said, I think it, at least for me, has everything to do with transitions, at least with whatever has sparked this one for me, because that's what it was. It was seeing that the thing that I've been striving for and reaching for, what I really want is me, being me. And I already have it. And that's what was so disruptive. I'm like, but what do I do with my life now? So it's the most beautiful kind of disruption, agitation, the most amazing. Oh, I found it. I am it. Really. And it is sweet.
I think that, yeah, there is that sense of, because it's been such a habitual way of being in the world that, well, what now? If I'm not, I'm not on this program to get better.
Well, it's like now, what do I want to do with my life? Because I still
Yeah,
have one,
I
and
know. It's
it gets to be anything.
like it's brand new and fresh.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's why it's like, it's what I make of it, honestly. But there's nothing scary about
Mm,
infinite possibilities. It feels amazing.
yeah. I'm gonna have to leave soon. I have a neurofeedback client in the other room that I need to go attend to. So
Well, thank you, Dan, for joining us. It was wonderful.
great to be here with all of you. Yeah, thank you. I'll stay connected on Zoom.
What else is stirring that might like to be shared, or maybe a question asked? Just kind of thinking about that. Dan said coming onto these calls, there's just a feeling of settling and a feeling of peace. And I thought, what is that? And isn't that amazing? That sometimes we just do that. Maybe on these calls, maybe somewhere else, for no reason at all. And that's it. That's the feeling of being. Just being me. Whatever that is in this moment. When it feels really peaceful like that, it's very quiet. And then it can bubble up in laughter and joy for no particular reason. And then it can get agitated. And it doesn't change it. Not the real experience of being. The agitation just moves through it. Yeah. Well, whether you want to share or not, what are you seeing for yourself? Maybe even more importantly, what do you feel? And I felt it as I said it earlier today, that what I'm looking for is right here. Right here. And it's me. Like some idea of the separation I'd made up between me and life fell away. Because I used to think I was looking for life or God or the universe, and that was what was gonna fix me, strangely enough. And I'm like, oh, that is me. I am that. Really. And it brings a funny look to my face sometimes. I'm like, really? Really? Whoa. I was talking with somebody a little while ago, and they were saying, like, but I can't say that. I can't say how the things that we're saying here, like, I am that, I have it. I can't say that because nobody's going to believe it. No one's going to believe it. And I said, really? Because here's what I see. They might not believe it, but they feel it. And I watch someone, if I'm speaking from the feeling of it, I watch someone hear me and I watch them hear it. I watch them feel it. They go, something happens and they release a little bit. And then sometimes I see them go up into their cynical thinking, right? But I watch them feel it. And sometimes people hear it and they feel it and they, whoa, they just like something about them opens. It almost feels like they're a flower blossoming and going, tell me more. And it goes way beyond belief because something in us knows the feeling of that's true. I don't understand it, but that's true. And that's how we know ourselves. Because it feels like that. It feels like that kind of, yeah, give me that.
Well, we are almost at time. It's time to transition to the next thing.
To the after Zoom.
Do, do, do,
To
do.
the next Zoom.
Now I'm feeling agitated. Somebody had to say it.
We'll be back here again next month. Second Thursday at the same time, whenever that was for you. That was 1 o'clock Eastern time, right? Please join us. If you have a topic you'd like us to take a fresh look at, you can reach out and email any one of us or message us if you know us on the socials. And we shall return and do that again. Something new. All right, lovelies. Good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Bye now.
So much. Yeah. Wonderful.
See you all.
Ciao.